Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erinkate. I am a product designer based out of the United States. Recently, I hopped into some of my favorite Facebook groups for UX designers and reached out asking new UXers if they were interested in receiving a free case study or portfolio audit. Some really cool people responded, giving me the okay to record my audit of their case studies and post it here on my channel. So thank you guys for that. This is not a design review. This is just a case study review. Putting on my hiring manager cap, I'm gonna go into her case study. I have looked it over a little bit. I've already left her a bunch of notes in a Figma file that I'm gonna hand off to her, but I wanted to walk you guys through this case study as well, in case anyone out there might find sections or tips that resonate with them and help them build their own case studies. Okay, let's go check out that case study. The case study I will be reviewing today is for Elisa. And Elisa is really cool because she is letting me audit this case study, even though her portfolio website is not complete yet, which those are hard to do. I know they're time consuming, but this case study of hers is for one of her bootcamp projects from my understanding. I am just gonna go in there and help her really make it shine. Again, this is not a design review, it's just a case study review. Here we are on the landing page of the case study and it's called Stage Talk. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take you guys through this really quick so you know what we're looking at. I have already copied this design into Figma. I just took a bunch of screenshots, lined them up into a big frame. So we have the Stage Talk case study inside of my Figma file, but I just wanted to show you the real site so that you can get a feel for the interaction. And I'm really just scrolling through it so you can just see like it lives here. This is where it's at. That's that. I'm going to open up my Figma now and go full screen with that. Here you all can see that I have copy and pasted Elisa's Stage Talk case study, sprinkled it with a bunch of notes that are relevant to each section. In this video, I talk all about structuring a UX case study to just give you a solid foundation for your case study, and I created a template that I shared with you all for free in the Figma community. So I actually went ahead and grabbed that template and dropped it into here so that I could just kind of like work off of it, see if there was areas that this template could be a resource. I'm just going to zoom in here and I'm going to give you all an overview. You can see that this is the landing page for the case study. All of her information is very condensed. There's tons of padding on the sides. So the first tip that I gave her regarding this first fold of the screen was stretch text across the page with appropriate padding on sides. Use up this real estate. Try creating a more engaging header image. When a reader, hiring manager, or recruiter pulls up this case study, this is the first screen before the fold. And the fold is once you have to scroll down to see more information. This is a really important part of your case study because this is where you get to really get people excited and get them wanting to read your case study, not putting it on their list of chores. Really use this real estate to be engaging and set yourself apart and showcase all the things you love about your final designs. I dropped this, which is another template that you can find on my community profile page, as a little like example for her where she could use this to mock up her phone screens and make a header image. I also encouraged her to make the title of her project larger and just really showcase it, put it center stage. Pun intended. Moving down into this section, so she has my role, tools used, and project prompt. I like the icon use here. It's always nice to use visuals, iconography, things that engage people visually, not just a bunch of text. But I did recommend using relevant icons and maybe not taking up so much real estate on the first fold of the screen with these topics. And then I also recommend to all designers that are doing these bootcamp case studies to position the case studies as freelance projects. You don't need to call out that this was a prompt. You don't need to call out that it was for a class. Act like you created this product for a freelance client and leave it at that. Start to build that mindset of authority where you were tasked with a responsibility as you would be in a freelance situation, and you owned that design cycle and you produced this great product. And then I also suggested to her that the project prompt can be covered in the problem statement itself. So instead of calling out directly that it's a prompt, you can interweave that into the problem statement section. I dropped some icons here just to give her an idea of how she can maybe reorganize this information. Obviously it wouldn't live alone in this section. You would probably move it down as I show you here next to like the problem statement. I like the way she initially used visuals for these topics. I just crossed out this section. I know the TLDR is probably just a blip, so I ignored that, but I did just cross this out because again, you're taking up a lot of real estate and she's repeating this pattern above. And so I said, it's good to highlight the problem and the solution. So she has problem, solution. The outcome is basically the same thing as the solution. So I would just cut out the outcome and then clearly define the problem via a problem statement, which I just showed you over there on the template. Then storytell a bit about the solution. So you can get into it here, you can storytell, you can be like, this was my inspiration. I was walking along the street and I tripped and I found this issue. Or you can kind of sum it up in like an elevator pitch. So however you want to approach that, but clarify it into this problem solution type of layout. How did I define the problem? Research, of course. So I'm going to pause here and take you up to some of my overarching notes. So these were general tips. And this is something I noticed in her project. She did a good job like having these catchy phrases of how did I find the problem? Research, of course. So she's calling out, now we're moving into research, but I still think that it's important to structure your case study with clearly defined sections. So here what I would recommend is by using your text styles. You can really call out that this was research, and you can still put like your catchy phrase, but I would really call out like, hey, this was research and this is the research section. So if I'm scrolling, it can be on the side, it can be in the middle, but if I'm scrolling, my eyes are drawn to the text. Okay, this is the research section. I want to learn more about how she approached research for this project. And that was what I wanted to call out from that little list up there. We'll go over that in a little bit. Okay, so talking about the problem statement. The problem statement needs to be clearly defined before moving to the research portion. So she's saying, how did I define the problem? Research, of course. But the way that the problem is laid out up here in this area, it's so small and it's clumped in with these other steps that it doesn't really jump out at me. So I really need that problem statement to be clearly defined, and then you can move into the research portion. Give the problem statement kind of its own highlight. You're shining a light, so because this is stage talk, I'm gonna like use those kind of puns. You're shining the spotlight on the problem statement, and then you can really set the scene. So the problem statement is like setting the scene for the story. It was a rainy day on a Tuesday, and Mandy didn't have any rubber boots. I hope that kind of makes sense to you guys, but what I'm saying is that the problem statement and the text that follows it can really be an opportunity to showcase your storytelling abilities. And if you don't want to get into it quite yet, maybe you want to get into it a little bit later, like after you show some mock-ups, you can just do like a quick pitch of your solution and then get into your setting the scene a little bit later on. I want to pause. I want to do an intermission and just point out that my template is just like a structure, and you can rearrange things as needed to fit your case study. Okay, back to the research portion. This like threw me at first because I was like, what's going on here? It just threw me visually. But as I looked at it more, I see what she was trying to do. She was trying to do this kind of like left to right, like you have your text on one side and the image on the other, and then you alternate it. But I don't think that that's necessarily the best place to use that kind of a layout. I think that pattern is nice when you have like a big image, like a big card, a product, and then you use a little bit of text to describe the product, or alternatively, if you had a big image of a case study on your landing page of your portfolio and then a little bit of text about it, you could alternate. But because the imagery of each of these sections is made up of smaller components, I would organize that differently. I said, clean this layout up. All of the research feels smooshed into this small section, and then really storytell your process. So that is something else that I'm going to stress as I go through people's case studies, is the storytelling of your process, or stressing the why of why you did what you did. Here we have this competitive analysis section, and she has 2 cons for each of her competitors. This is an opportunity to really show the way your brain works and the data that you're able to independently extract from conducting these competitive analyses. So I suggested here that she add some more visuals, where she can use visuals like SWOT analysis quadrants, screenshots of competitors where she's marked up all the things that are wrong and possibly right. She could also use some more bullet points. And then I also suggest that she adds pros and cons. She's just showing a couple of cons. It's good to show that you can also point out the patterns that are being used well, the UI that's being used well. On my portfolio, I have Clio, which was like a long time ago project of mine, but I feel like it was a really good storytelling project. So if you go to the research section, you will see, I'm just gonna jump out and go to it. Example here. Okay, so I'm just gonna give an example here. Right, this is an old project of mine, but I feel like the research section did a good job of storytelling. These images could be bigger. Now my laptop's pretty big, but these images could be bigger. Here I use that SWOT analysis to really dig deep into my competitive analysis. I was able to call out the strengths of my competitors, the opportunities where I could fill in a gap that my competitors were leaving behind, the weaknesses, and then the threats. Really elaborate on your research. Tell me about the process, tell me more about the competitors, give me visuals about your research process, and really build out that portion of your story, because again, this is an opportunity for the way your brain works to shine. From there, she says that user interviews revealed the needs and desires of actors. Okay, so she conducted competitive analysis and then user interviews. Virtual interviews with 4 actors uncovered that there are unreliable, outdated apps for performers that don't include objective personal input from credible sources. Okay, so she conducted virtual interviews with 4 actors. Maybe give me a little bit more about those actors, like their demographics, the kind of actors they are they stage actors, are they movie actors, are they commercial actors? Give the reader a little bit more detail so they can really fully see the story. You want to paint this holistic scene for the reader so that they can feel more intimately a part of this story that you're telling and more invested in the product and in you. Another thing that you could do are some mock-ups of those users. So like maybe an avatar with their name, you can use a fake name, their title, as in like what kind of an actor they are, their age, their gender, their location. And that would just be a fun way to showcase that. I'll give you an idea of what I mean really quick. All right, so something like this would be fun to just give people more of a visual. So you could, have a couple of those. Well, I guess she said 4. You could do 4 of those lined up. Different people, of course. And then you could even add, okay, so then here she has these random quotes thrown on to Post-it notes. I like the quotes. I like extracting quotes. I like that she's using bold text to highlight the things that users are suggesting for the application, but the way that it is organized is messy and it's not giving me much information. I'm curious about who said that they're frustrated that they have to pay so much. I want to know more about it. You could even add a quote section under here. Where'd that go? Oh, a quotes section here. Yep, all right. So that's just an idea for you all. I will leave that here for her. Just sprucing it up. Moving on. Okay, interview analysis revealed 3 themes for conceptualizing stage talk. I like that she stated that her interviews revealed these things. So she's showcasing her skill in being able to extract data from the interviews. I would probably remove the analysis part. I would probably just say interviews revealed 3 themes for conceptualizing stage talk. I would probably phrase that a bit differently. Interview analysis. Interviews revealed 3 themes for stage talk. And really, I'd work a lot more on this copy to make it really make sense. But what I am trying to put forth is that the interviews revealed 3 primary gaps that stage talk could enter the stage and fill. ... enter stage talk. Something like that. Okay. So as I said, I like that you extracted the solid data. I think that another way to phrase the 3 themes would be the 3 key features. And then the way that these are positioned from left to right, 1, 2, 3, makes me feel like they're steps. Like you're saying step 1, step 2, step 3. Consider instead using a vertical list style to showcase this information, maybe even bullet points, because numbers can almost give a numerical value saying this is the most important, this is least important. Not a big deal here, but keep that in mind. Next section, research insights led to crafting personas and charting flows. So I like how you talk about research defining personas and flows. What she's saying here is that the research insights led or influenced her personas and user flows. I did say called charting flows, like user journeys, UX flows, or user flows. And then you move into a visual of your personas. Love that, love a good visual, but take up more real estate. Visuals are great for looping readers back into the story, maybe add an interaction like a click-through of a couple personas. So these are pretty small. I don't want to have to squint to see your personas. Also, I wouldn't mind being able to see the full persona for a male versus a female. I'm curious about, how maybe their needs differ, their challenges differ. Alternatively, for a stage actress versus a commercial actress, I don't know a lot about acting, so I'm not sure if I'm using the right terms, but it'd be interesting for me to be able to kind of compare a bit. And that's an opportunity to, again, loop the reader in with visuals and give them also maybe an opportunity to interact by like scrolling through a couple. Summing up findings with design. We have rapid wireframing revealed hypothesized intuitiveness. I would check your copy on that. It's a little unclear. Okay, so here you tell a little story. Initially, the sign-up screen was a popover, the home screen, which users weren't able to view until after the sign-up. I would say like maybe a pop-up modal. I ultimately dedicated a screen solely for signing up to reduce cognitive overload. I do think it was a better option to design a screen solely for signing up, but I need to know more about this process. Clarify as well what I'm looking at here. So I thought that these were just different levels of wireframes, and I think that these are your final designs. You don't want your final designs to be mistaken as like mid-fidelity wireframes. Since you're not calling that out, a reader might simply see wireframe and go with that. Consider adding larger images or even a user flow mock-up with arrows. I can tell that this is left to right. You're saying welcome, and then that screen, and then that screen, but it would be nice to still have arrows to guide the user's eyes along, because some people aren't gonna put as much thought as I just put into dissecting these screens. This is also a great opportunity to use before and after. People love a good before and after, so you have your before flow and your after flow, but I need more description. I need more details about the process of how you got from point A to point B within this section. I'm gonna hop over here and just give you an idea of like, here's your low fidelity wireframe, so wireframes, storytell, low fidelity wireframes, bigger real estate, few more screens. This could be connected with arrows if it's a flow. And then text, storytelling about the wireframe process. So this is where you could loop in like, after reviewing with some family and friends, I realized that maybe it wasn't the most intuitive to have this pop-up modal, and that's why I decided to iterate on the low fidelity wireframes, specifically this flow, and create this new sign-up process. And then you even had the opportunity to label mid-fidelity wireframes. And I think that it's always just nice to add labels because people sometimes just don't know what they're looking at. They're moving through stuff quickly. Back to yours over here. Back to stage talk. Okay, then putting stage talk to the test. So this was another section where like you just really need to expand your story, own the process, and give me more details. Also, stretch that text, stretch the width of that text, make these images larger. You don't need such a large amount of padding between this text and these images, but I also would restructure this section. Okay, so usability testing revealed pain points and iteration opportunities. Testers' insights. So all that I really see here are a couple quotes. And based off of these couple of quotes, it seems that she did a pretty massive overhaul to the UI of her app. So this is where I said, I like the header here about what usability testing did. So I think it was nice. Usability testing revealed pain points and opportunities, but dig into the process. The reader needs to know how you conducted your user research. Was this moderated testing? Were you setting up a test environment where you observed the user going through a couple of flows? Was this A/B testing where you were saying, do you like this UI more or this UI more? Like what kind of testing was it? How did you conduct the testing? How many users were involved in the testing? Give me some data visuals. So I'm gonna pop over here. Everyone loves a good data visual, a good pie chart. Give me some data visuals, because one of the big things that struck me here is that you have this purple themed UI for your application, and then suddenly it's this maroon color. I just see this one quote, purple doesn't say a successful actor to me. Did you test 10 people and one person mentioned they didn't like purple and it didn't seem successful? Or did you test 10 people and 9 of them made a comment about the color? And then go put that data in a pie chart, because what you want to showcase is that you make data-driven designs. If 90% of the people you did testing on said that purple didn't seem professional to them, that would be a good basis to create a data-driven design and explore some new colors for your app. But if 10% said they didn't like the color, I wouldn't make my decision and overhaul my app based off of that. So that's why you really need to tell this process. Give me the why behind the decisions that you made. In order to make data-driven iterations, you need solid data. This can be quantitative data, qualitative data, or a mix of both. You really need to talk about the process and how you reach your decision, and if it is qualitative data, so if your decision was influenced more from like this conversation that you had with the user, more of an open-ended conversation, you're going to need to showcase how you extracted and organized data from that interview process. Then we move into how does Alex book a call? Check out the flow. So again, I would call out here like high fidelity mockups and really give it its own section to shine. I feel like as a reader reading this, I feel like towards the end, you just got maybe a little tired of building the case study and you had all these screens you had to mock up, and I totally get it. It's a lot of work, but make sure that you keep that momentum running and then make sure that the end is a grand finale. Let these new designs shine, mock them up on phones, like so kind of more realistic looking mock-ups, and create an experience for the reader using click-through screens, a beautiful multi-screen mock-up with a relevant background. Okay, so this was a thought for here. So this is an idea of like, just a simplistic background to your mock-up screens. And actually I won't delete that in case you want to look at it. And then I was also thinking like, you could do some screen mock-ups on something like this, come into like Unsplash, and then like put a stage in the background. Okay, and you could create something like this, like where you have your stage talk screens overlaid on a stage. And you could, take that image, maybe turn the opacity down, play with the layer blur, whatever looks pretty, but just some options of how to really draw this together. Back to this. Okay, and then the last suggestion, and you could do both, you could do either or, but my favorite is a video walkthrough showcasing the key features of the app. So you have this final prototype below, and I think that's great, but as long as you have a prototype built out, you might as well put QuickTime on, hit screen record, or use something like Loom, like I'm using here, and take the reader through the key features. So this is how a user books a call, this is how a user signs up, this is how, I guess that wouldn't be a key feature, but this is how a user gets a resume review, this is how a user does a video call with a mentor, and this would just be a great opportunity to let the final product shine. A note on the prototype, I went into your Figma prototype, it's nice, like having a prototype is nice, but make sure that the flows within your prototypes are labeled appropriately. I suppose I will, oh wait, I don't have it here. Let me see if I can pull up I just want to show everyone watching so they have a good idea of what I mean. Okay, so here's the Figma prototype. Okay, so see on the left-hand panel, there's like all these different flows. They're not labeled. I'm not sure what's going on. We have the old designs, we have the new designs. So I'm sure that this is just, you need to clean it up because like I said, it's a lot of work getting these case studies done. But like, I didn't even see this screen in the case study. I like that screen. So definitely label your flows appropriately, or just create one flow that encompasses everything you want to showcase. And then last but not least, reflection revealed my personal insights. Reflection, or what Stage Talk taught me. I think that's nice because it kind of like helps, just kind of like loop it all together, what this product taught me. And then you could just put like this text underneath, your storytelling, love that. And then I was thinking, instead of thoughts for next time, consider creating like a moving forward section. So you've already talked about what you've learned, and in that, you're gathering thoughts for next time. But by adding a moving forward section, you get to show that you have knowledge of the full life cycle design process. An example of how you can showcase that with a moving forward or next steps for Stage Talk, you can put something like, next steps will be meeting with the engineering team to help them implement these designs or hand off these designs, or running design reviews with my product manager. It could be like whatever might fall into place after your designs. And that just kind of gives this more holistic energy to the product, to the case study, and also gives the reader this idea of like, I know what comes next in the process of developing this product. It doesn't just end as a bootcamp product and that's that, but I had the foresight to kind of prepare for the next steps of an actual product. Okay, and that is that. That's a wrap. Actually, it's not, because I have a couple notes up here. General tips. Structure your case study with clearly defined sections so that if a reader is scrolling, you can easily jump from section to section without missing anything or getting lost. Use up real estate. Stretch your text and images to take up the width of the page with appropriate padding left on the sides and in between elements, containers. You get what I'm saying? Use imagery to loop reader back into the story. So remember, a reader, a hiring manager, a recruiter, whoever it may be, is coming into your story and they are getting deep into this text. But unfortunately, in 2023, our attention spans are quite short. And on top of that, hiring managers and recruiters are going through possibly hundreds of these a week. So you really want to give them those visuals. They're like eye candy. And you're just gonna keep looping them back in with these engaging visuals. And then lastly, give the text room to breathe, because in some of these areas you just had text squeezed in. No need, just think about how you would wanna read something and just give it more room to breathe. And this is my final point. This is something that I stress a lot in my videos, the storytelling aspect of building case studies, and also just like the storytelling aspect of UX design. Share more about your processes. Case studies are to give the reader insight into how your brain works and solves problems. So what you're really showcasing with a case study, yes, you're showcasing technical and design skills, but you're also showcasing your problem-solving skills. My suggestion is to take your solution and deconstruct it. Okay, so you have this big thing, it's the solution. So your solution are these final designs, it's this final product, but you're pulling out the ingredients. You're pulling out what it took to make this final product. How did you go from point A, aka the problem, to point B, aka the solution? In most case study cases, final designs. The steps that you took to travel that distance from point A to point B are the sections of your case study. Each section is a mini story, or like a chapter to the book, and it needs to be explained in clearly and in detail. Well, that is my review of the case study stage talk. As a UX designer, one of the big things that we're taught is to not marry our designs. And when you're in a real workplace environment, you have to really practice having tough skin, you have to take the emotion out of what you're doing and take feedback well. Elisa is already steps ahead of the game by being able to let me go in and review her case study and share it here on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I hope this helps you. I really do. And I hope that everyone else watching it that is working to build their first case studies, their first portfolios, was able to extract from this review some of their own tips, insights, advice that they can go and apply to their own case studies. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I will be creating new content here every single week to help people that want to break into the world of UX design land their first jobs in UX design. Bye.